And welcome back, our dear viewers, as we are celebrating today a very important day, which is the celebration of the Resurrection Day. And we wish all our Christian family and friends happy day indeed, and happy Easter. We are going to talk about the most important Coptic monuments in Egypt. And to shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Mr. El Sayed Ali Taha, historian and researcher. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, we need to learn more about the reason why the Holy Family came to Egypt, and we want to know about their journey.
Yeah. Uh, First of all, happy Easter to everybody and all over the world. This known in the Holy Bible when the angel appeared to Saint Joseph the carpenter, telling him, "Take the mother and the son to Egypt."
Yes.
Due to one of the circumstances that passed in the Holy Land or Jerusalem, Palestine nowadays, that was what we call it in the Bible, the Holy Flight to Egypt.
Yes.
Saint Joseph, the carpenter, the Mother Virgin Mary, and Jesus Christ when he was a child, and then they passed to different places from Jerusalem through Sinai, and nowadays we are preparing the holy path that they took from there in the way coming to Egypt and in the way back to Jerusalem again.
Yes.
There are two theories talking about how much time they stayed in Egypt. Some they said maybe 4 years. Some others says maybe 6 years. And there are different points and known here in Egypt that they passed by. Nowadays, anywhere that they passed in Egypt, you can find a church or a monastery or at least a holy chapel.
Yes.
Those places we consider them as a pilgrimage places for the Coptic Christians, especially, and for the holy Christian world as well. There are some certain places known in this holy path. In general, 25 places that we know up till now.
Yes.
And there is a big on the great mega project that they are arranging those places to be suitable for the visitors, and some of them they already inaugurated, and some is still under the work. And I think within a year, the holy path will be prepared for the whole visitors all over the world.
Yes. Mr. Taha, can you shed more light about the most important places that the Holy Family did visit during their journey in Egypt, which lasted almost for 3 years?
Yeah. Let's say that they came from Farama, that place nowadays is Port-Said. And then they passed to Samanud, nearby Kafr Sheikh nowadays.
Yeah.
They passed to Tal Basta in Sharqiya. It's different places in different governorates nowadays because they couldn't get the normal way, the normal route.
Yeah.
So they had to do it in like a zigzag route. Because they've been persuaded by the Jewish and the Roman in the same time. Due to, we know all of us, we know the story that one of the governors, he dreamed that a boy will take him the power, so he ordered to kill all the boys being born at that year, so they fly to Egypt.
Yes.
Then they moved from the Tal Basta to different places in Nile Delta, like the famous monastery Baramos, and also what we call it Matron Valley, situated in the road between Cairo and Alexandria. and then they moved to Ain Shams, or nowadays Mataria, and also they came to the very important place, what we call the Old Cairo or Coptic Cairo, where we have different churches there. Actually, there are 7 famous churches in the area of Misr al-Qadima or Coptic Cairo.
Yes,
All of these churches known with everywhere, not only
of
in
course.
Egypt. It's a very renowned churches all over the world, especially the Hanging Church and San Sergio Church as well. Another new one for the Roman Orthodox, which we call it Mary Girgis or San George Church as well. One of the famous churches, the St. Sergius Church, we have under the church a very known place, we call it the cavern or subterranean crypt. They said maybe the Holy Family stayed in this place for 3 or 6 months. And there is a well next to this, cavern or the crypt. They said they took water and they drink water from this well.
Yes.
These churches, especially the Hanging Church and San Sergio Church, dated between 4th up to 6th century ED, and still remain some architectural styles and some architecture designs dated back to that era of the history, especially the Corinthian style that we can see in the capitals of the columns. Of course, the churches have been restored and renovated several times through the history, but it still remain some architectural elements dated back to that time between the 4th up to the 6th century AD. Those churches, we call them the basilica style. Seems like, a rectangular shape with 3 naves. The central nave the ceiling is high, forming an arch form, and that may be resembling the Noah's Ark, or that we call it the salvation boat. Use that story that we have it in Quran as well, and in the Old Testament, that God ordered Prophet Noah to construct a boat, to what we call it the second creation of the world. The Hanging Church is very, very important as well, and it is very, very renowned between the Coptic people and the whole Christian world as well. That's why it's one of the places we will be visited today and tomorrow. And because we end the Holy Week tomorrow with the feast. So happy Easter for everybody around the world.
Yes. Sir, we need to learn more about the efforts exerted in order to revive and renovate the path of the flight of the Holy Family in Egypt in the project which began in the year 2013. How do you see the renovation and the work done in order to revive the path of the Holy Family?
This is an old mega project started a long time ago. And due to some internal circumstances that had passed Egypt, so the project being delayed several times.
Yeah.
But let's say about 6 or 7 years ago, they started the project again, and they almost finished. Let's say they finished at least 75% of the project. And still some logistics, some small things that they had to pave the roads and the already reconstructed places to be prepared for the visitors. And this work, it needs a lot of finance and a lot of money, as you know. So due to some crisis of money and the circumstances of the crisis going all over the world, so it will be delayed a bit, but I think in the end of this year, or at least in the half or year next year, I mean, in the half of the 24th will be finished the project. There are a lot of excellence and a lot of efforts done in this field and is still on, especially the Supreme Council of Antiquities with the, the head of the Egyptian church. They are joining in a great project, and there are some donation come from all over the world to this project. Especially, we are talking about the human heritage. Not only
Yes.
it is in Egypt, of course, but it belongs to all over the world, and especially to Christian world. We are not talking
course.
about Catholic or Orthodox or Anglican, whatever. No, we are talking about the whole Christian world, and it's something big means for the whole Christian over the world. Of course, St. Catherine Monastery wasn't visited by the the Holy Family, but it's still in a very good place, and it's a place renowned all over the world. And some of the Christians they visited during the Easter time, especially when they gather a visit between the Holy Land in Palestine and the St. Catherine Monastery, because it's very close. So they arrange one trip for both of them. And sometimes they get to Cairo to visit that holy places that I mentioned, especially the Hanging Church and the St. Serge Church.
Yes. Sir, to what extent, from your point of view, such project of renovating and reviving the past of the Holy Family could serve humanity, as you have kindly mentioned? It is very important for the human heritage. What's your take on that?
Yeah, of course, if we don't know our past, we can't arrange our future. That's very important. You need to know where your ancestors finished, and then you start to continue.
Yeah.
And this is a basic philosophy of the human being life. We can't start from zero, because we have a big heritage. And this heritage, some of them disappeared with the passing of time, but it's still revived in the tales between the common people. I can tell you that we still speak ancient Egyptian language nowadays. In our Egyptian dialect, we have a lot of words and a lot of expressions dated back to the ancient people. We still feel this in our habits, in our customs, in our tradition, in our food itself. We're still going on with the ancient tradition. If even we don't feel it, but if you search it scientifically, you will find. Recently was a very big project was done by a joint team between Egyptian and foreigners. They arranged the DNA project, and they said we still Egyptian as the ancient Egyptian people. And let's say our Coptic people, they have more percentage of the ancient Egyptian, because they didn't mix with the Arabs as the other Egyptians that they became Muslims, and they mixed with the Arab people who came to Egypt, and especially Turkish and Mamelukes. This country had been invaded by a lot of nationalities and a lot of people, but I can tell you the Egyptian culture influenced the invaders, not vice versa. Look at that. The English, the recent occupation in Egypt, English occupation or British occupation, the English left Egypt speaking Arabic. Imagine it, not vice versa. I don't like to compare with other countries that they speak the language of the invaders, but this country, a very, very strong culture and very, very strong civilization, even the influence the invaders, not vice versa, as I said.
Yes.
So we need to revive our culture again. and we need to preserve our heritage. And I don't like to call it Egyptian archaeology. No, I like to call it Egyptian heritage because it's good meaning when you call it Egyptian heritage, not Egyptian monument or Egyptian archaeology or ancient Egypt. No, it is Egyptian heritage because it passed by different cultures and being let's say, interacted each culture between the other. And what we have now, it's the Egyptian heritage of those cultures and all those civilizations that passed to Egypt.
Yes. Sir, how important is to include the past of the flight of the Holy Family in Egypt in the list of the UNESCO?
Of course, there are some parts nowadays it's registered in UNESCO, and some other is still under the studying and the investigation. Let's say, for example, places like St. Catherine Monastery, it is already registered in the the UNESCO as human heritage. A place like Wadi al-Natron as well. The other, the Jabal al-Khair, we need to register as well in Minya. We need to register in the human heritage in UNESCO. The Hanging Church and the Abu Sirga or San Sergio Church, we need to register it as well. We need to do a lot of efforts and a lot of exerts to get all these places registered in UNESCO and in the human heritage. Of course, we have a lot of antiquities in Egypt, and we have a lot of places being registered, but we need to do more exerts and more efforts to register all the antiquities that we have here in Egypt, because it's a human heritage. It is, because this heritage participated a lot in the human culture all over the history. I think the Egyptian culture in the ancient time influenced the Greek-Roman culture, and then through the Arab people in Spain when they stayed in the Iberic Peninsula. That what caused the reasons later in Europe through that circle of culture that passed from ancient Egyptian to the Greek-Roman, and then from the Greek-Roman to the Arabs in what we call it Al-Andalus, or ancient or medieval Spain. And then we have a different example that they participated in this human heritage. I need 3 episodes to count all the names: Avicenna, Averroes, Al-Haytham, Al-Ghafiqi, a lot of the renowned science and philosophers that they participated in the human heritage, originated from the Arab countries and from Egypt as well.
Indeed, Mr. Sayyid Ali Taha, our historian and researcher, thank you so much, sir, for your very precious input. It was a pleasure. And indeed, our dear viewers, with that, we come to the end of our first segment in the Breakfast Show. We'll go to a short break, and after that, we'll be back after our break with the national unity and how we are celebrating our occasions together.